And I'd like to respond to that, please.
Go ahead.
This is an issue where Carolyn and I are very far apart. And I would say that we are running to represent the residents of the 8th Middlesex District in Metro West. We need more voices on Beacon Hill who aren't going to talk about toll equity, aren't going to tisk the inequity, and then call for another comprehensive plan. The Transportation Finance Commission report, I was there when it was being written. The chairman of the Transportation Finance Commission, Steve Silvera, is a good friend of mine, and we've talked about these issues. And that report took 4 years to write, and it's been on the shelf for a year, and we've seen nothing but nibbling around the edges. We need to say that it was wrong when the legislature made the decision to saddle east-west drivers with the debt load for the Big Dig, which is a north-south artery. We need to say it was wrong when it was done. It needs to be undone. We need to say that unequivocally and forcefully. And quite frankly, some of my opponent's statements in this room in the past, she was asked this question by you, Jim, and she said tolls are a good thing for a number of reasons. One, environmentally. She said taking down the tolls would encourage more people to drive, which is not in our long-term interests. I think Metro West drivers want someone to stand up and say, take down the tolls, not to say we're going to price you out of your cars because of some notion that it's in our long-term interest to do so. I just believe that we have a fundamental difference here, and most of the voters in this region will agree that we need a voice on the Hill saying what I'm saying.
Carolyn?
I'd like to respond to that, sure. To clarify my statements on tolls, I absolutely said what I meant, and I mean what I say. And I think the question was whether we should take down tolls. I don't think we should take down tolls, frankly. I think, additional tolls on our north-south roads make a lot of sense. I think public transportation is a big issue for our district. Public transportation is something that's been talked about by our businesses. I think from a climate perspective, from an environmental perspective, taking down tolls is not the direction that we want to head. I think it needs to be done fairly, but I think the last thing that we need right now is more traffic on the Mass Pike or on any of our other roads. We need to encourage more people to use public transport, and I think I absolutely stand behind the comments that I made earlier.
Just a quick follow-up, and this is hopefully going to be just a yes or no question from both of you, but toll equity I think is important, but realistically, do either of you believe that anyone in this room will see tolls on north-south roads within our lifetime?
Who's first? No.
Thank you.
Within our lifetime. I would like to think that we will have an equitable solution to funding transportation, including the MBTA, including our maintenance of our roads and our bridges, which are in very bad condition right now, including the debt that we owe on the Big Dig. I think within that lifetime, we certainly can have an equitable solution to that. Whether or not that includes tolls, I don't know. I think it could include tolls, and I think if we can, get a plan and move ahead with it, absolutely, I think we can have tolls within our lifetime, if that's the road that we choose to go down, and it's equitable.
Since Carolyn took more than one word on that, I'd like a couple more words. My initial response.
Word equity. Would
yes,
you like some?
Exactly. Word equity. My initial response was rejected because it was more than one word, but I was going to make reference to the chances a snowball might have somewhere in the center of the earth. We will not see tolls on our northwest road, our north-south roads in our lifetime, Jim, nor should we. Frankly, the turnpike tolls are incredibly inefficient. There is tremendous waste. It is tolls are I read somewhere that they're 42 times less efficient a means of collecting revenue than our taxes because of the manpower, because of the technology, and besides that, just the way things work in Beacon Hill. There's no way that our legislature is putting tolls on north-south. I don't want to replicate that wasteful system. I want to end it. I don't think we ought to take that money suck and duplicate it in other parts of our state. Toll equity, saying it's equitable to make everyone pay what we pay, might give us some sense of temporary satisfaction, but it does nothing to address the hit we take to our wallets, and it's the wrong way to go in terms of government efficiency.
Well, let's. You want a few more words?
Sure. I think, you know, theoretically speaking, I think that's, you know, I couldn't disagree more with what Dan says. I think the reality is that we have debts we have to pay, and that money has to come from somewhere. And what I would like to ask Dan, and I don't know if this is the appropriate forum to address it or not, but, you know, if taxes are a more efficient way to pay for our transportation infrastructure, well, then let's have a serious discussion about taxes. But you can't simply say eliminate tolls and not give a viable option for keeping our state solvent and paying our debts.
Well, actually, sure you can. For years, our legislature has been saying toll inequity, toll inequity, toll inequity, and raising our tolls, and saying occasionally we'll enact some reforms. The Transportation Finance Commission was a perfect example of that. It was much ballyhooed and was published to great fanfare, and nothing happened except for we got a toll increase. And now we have another toll increase on the table as people are saying, let's enact reforms. What I'm saying is the taxpayer and the toll payer has a right in this state, which last year took a $1 billion surplus and spent it into a $1 billion deficit. The taxpayer has a right to say to our legislature, you may have no more of our money until you get your house in order. That's what question 1 is about. That's why people are angry, and they have a right to be angry. Enough talk about reform programs. Let's do something.
I think we've given the viewers a pretty substantial idea of where you both stand on that issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So let's move on then. Either one of you, whichever one of you, I guess I should say, who is elected, will come into the House as a freshman legislator and on November 4th. And would you explain how, in this legislative system, with its heavy emphasis on seniority and the Speaker's almost absolute authority, that you will be able to achieve your legislative goals? And I think we start with you, Carolyn.
Sure. I think it goes back to what I said in my opening statement, which is, you know, there's a way to approach getting things done when you're dealing with a public entity. I think it comes down to putting in the time and being persistent. I think it comes to building the relationships up at the State House that will allow you to move things ahead as a group, as opposed to being one individual trying to move one thing, you know, roll the stone up the hill, so to speak. You need to build consensus behind your ideas. And that's, you know, something I will do. The first thing I will do is if I get into the State House, is to meet all of the various representatives around, you know, work with our senators and make sure that the relationships are there to move legislation ahead.